Everyone has experienced moments of pain and hardship. At times, the hurt is so profound that it leaves invisible scars, shaping the way we live, think, and interact with the world. These scars are often called unresolved traumas, and they sit quietly within us, influencing our lives in ways we may not even realize. Whether it's a childhood loss, a relationship gone wrong, or an unexpected tragedy, the wounds we don't heal remain with us. But what if there was a way to release these burdens, no matter how long they've been a part of us? In this story, we explore the journey of Wei, a Shaolin monk who, like many of us, had unknowingly carried the weight of unresolved trauma. Through the ancient teachings of Buddha and the wisdom of his master, Wei learns that healing is not about running from pain, but about facing it with acceptance, compassion, and the courage to let go. His story is a powerful reminder that no matter how deep the wound, there is always a path to inner peace. But beneath this calm exterior, Wei carried a deep and unresolved trauma, one that he had hidden for many years. When Wei was a child, his village was attacked by bandits. In the chaos, his parents were killed and Wei was left alone. The Shaolin monks found him wandering the forest and took him in. They raised him, trained him, and gave him a new life. Over time, Wei excelled in his training, becoming one of the most skilled monks at the temple. But despite his success, the trauma of losing his parents had never been addressed. Instead, Wei buried it deep within himself, believing that if he focused on his training, the pain would eventually fade. For years, Wei believed that through perfecting his kung fu and mastering his mind, he could escape the grief of his past. He thought that by becoming stronger, faster, and more disciplined, he could outdistance the pain that lived in his heart. But unresolved trauma doesn't simply disappear because we ignore it. Instead, it lingers, affecting everything we do, our thoughts, our emotions, and even our physical health. As the years passed, Wei began to notice changes within himself. No matter how hard he practiced or how deeply he meditated, he felt an increasing sense of unease. His thoughts were no longer clear and his body felt heavy, as though weighed down by something invisible. When he closed his eyes to meditate, images of his parents' death would flash in his mind. Night after night, he dreamt of the bandits' attack, waking in a cold sweat, his heart racing. Confused and frustrated, Wei approached the head monk, Master Li, a man known for his wisdom and compassion. Bowing deeply, Wei spoke, "Master, I have followed the path of Buddha and trained my body and mind for many years. Yet recently I feel something is wrong. My thoughts are scattered, my heart is troubled, and I no longer find peace in my practice. What is happening to me?" Master Li looked at Wei with understanding eyes and smiled gently. "Wei, my dear student, what you are feeling is the weight of an old wound, a trauma that you have carried for too long without healing." Wei's eyes widened in surprise. "But Master, I thought I had moved beyond my past. I believed that if I became strong enough, disciplined enough, I could overcome it." Master Li nodded, his expression soft but firm. "Your strength and discipline have served you well, but they cannot heal what has not been faced. Trauma, like a deep wound, does not simply disappear because we ignore it. It festers and grows, affecting everything within us. The peace you seek cannot be found by running from your pain. It can only be found by facing it." Master Li then shared with Wei one of the most important lessons of the Buddha's teachings. The first step to healing is acceptance. Buddha taught us that suffering is a natural part of life, Master Li explained. To live is to experience both joy and sorrow, gain and loss, love and heartbreak. Yet what causes the most pain is not the suffering itself, but our resistance to it. When we resist the pain, we give it more power. When we try to bury our trauma, it continues to grow inside us, unseen but felt. Wei sat in silence, absorbing the words of his teacher. He had spent his entire life resisting the pain of his past, believing that if he pushed it down far enough, it would no longer affect him. But now he realized that this resistance was the very thing holding him back. Master Li continued, Acceptance does not mean giving up or resigning to a life of suffering. Acceptance means acknowledging the truth of our experience without judgment or fear. Only when we fully accept our pain can we begin to understand it, and only through understanding can we release it. These words struck Wei deeply. He realized that he had never truly accepted the trauma of his parents' death. He had tried to be strong for so long, pretending that the pain didn't exist. But in doing so, he had only made the pain stronger, allowing it to influence his thoughts, his emotions, and his body. From that day forward, Wei's approach to his trauma changed. Instead of running from it, he began to face it directly. Each morning during his meditation, he allowed the painful memories of his parents to surface. At first, the emotions were overwhelming. Grief, anger, fear, all the feelings he had pushed away for years came rushing back, filling his heart with a deep ache. But under the guidance of Master Li, Wei learned to observe these emotions without judgment. Instead of trying to control or suppress them, he allowed them to rise and fall, like waves in the ocean. Be the observer of your pain, not its prisoner, Master Li often reminded him. Watch your thoughts and feelings as they come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. Do not cling to them, simply let them be. At first, this was one of the hardest things Wei had ever done. For years, he had been conditioned to push through his emotions, to be strong, to not show weakness. But now, he was learning that true strength comes from allowing himself to feel. By sitting with his pain, by allowing it to be present without trying to change it, Wei began to understand his trauma in a new way. He realized that the grief he carried for his parents had never been fully expressed. As a child, he had been so focused on surviving the loss that he had never allowed himself to truly mourn. But now, in the quiet of his meditation, he began to grieve for them, to cry for the family he had lost, and to honor their memory in a way he never had before. This grieving process was painful, but it was also healing. With each meditation, Wei felt a little lighter, as though the weight of his trauma was slowly lifting. The memories of his parents were still there, but they no longer brought the same intense pain. Instead, they became a source of connection, a reminder of the love he had shared with them. As Wei continued on his healing journey, he began to learn another important teaching of Buddha: compassion is the key to healing. Not just compassion for others, but compassion for oneself. For most of his life, Wei had been hard on himself. He believed that to be strong, he needed to be perfect, that any sign of weakness was a failure. But as he worked through his trauma, he began to realize that this belief had been one of the biggest obstacles to his healing. Buddha teaches us that compassion is the antidote to suffering, Master Li said one day during their evening meditation. We must learn to be kind to ourselves, to offer ourselves the same love and understanding that we offer others. Only then can we truly heal. These words stayed with Wei. For years he had judged himself harshly, believing that he wasn't good enough, that his pain was a sign of weakness. But now he began to see that his pain was not a weakness. It was a part of his humanity. By showing himself compassion, by treating himself with kindness, Wei found a sense of peace that he had never known before. He also began to extend this compassion to others. As he opened his heart to his own suffering, he became more attuned to the suffering of those around him. He began to see that everyone carries some form of pain, and that we are all connected by our shared experience of suffering. This realization filled Wei with empathy and a desire to help others heal just as he was healing. As Wei neared the end of his healing journey, he learned one final and crucial lesson. Letting go is the key to freedom. Buddha's teachings often emphasize the concept of non-attachment. Attachment, whether to people, things, or even our own pain, is what causes suffering. For many years, Wei had been attached to his trauma, holding onto it because it had become a part of his identity. He didn't know how to live without it. But as Master Li reminded him, true freedom comes from letting go of the things that no longer serve us. You must release the pain that you have carried for so long, Wei, Master Li said. It has been a part of you, yes, but it does not define you. Your true self is beyond your trauma, beyond your pain. It is pure, peaceful, and whole. With these words in mind, Wei began the practice of letting go. It was not an easy process. He had carried his trauma for so long that it felt like a part of him. But with each passing day, as he continued to meditate, to practice compassion, and to accept his emotions, Wei found that he was able to release a little more of the pain. He no longer clung to the past, no longer felt defined by his trauma. Instead, he embraced the present moment with an open heart and an open mind. He had learned that healing was not about forgetting the past, but about making peace with it. Wei's journey is a testament to the power of Buddha's teachings in healing unresolved trauma. Through acceptance, compassion, and the wisdom of letting go, Wei found a way to release the pain that had weighed him down for so long. His story reminds us that healing is possible, no matter how deep the wound, and that by facing our pain with courage and love, we can find the peace we seek. Trauma is a part of life, but it does not have to define us. Like Wei, we all have the ability to heal, to grow, and to find freedom from the burdens of our past. All it takes is the willingness to look within, to accept our pain, and to let go of what no longer serves us. In doing so, we can discover the inner peace that lies within us all.